Hi guys, me again. I am going to be going through section A now of this practice paper. My other video which I did earlier was on section B, so that was the whole creative writing thing. So if you haven't watched that one already, then go check that one out. But it's probably better to watch this one first, because on your GCSE paper, section A does come first, so it's probably worth watching this one first and then watching section B afterwards, but whichever way you want to do it works. Okay, so let's get started. So for section A, this is the 20th and 21st contemporary fiction and non-fiction extracts. And there will be two texts and they will both have something in common. So here is one of the texts. So this is text one. Oh, wrong way around. That doesn't help. This is text one. Obviously, there's writing all over it. So in your exam, you may be asked to analyze the text. You might not be, but in worst case, if you are, then go ahead and do your analysis. So analyzing is basically just going through all of the little sentences on your... Oh, I got this upside down again. No. Going through the whole of the extract and picking out different words, different sentences, anything you can think of. So, for example, I went and circled in orange pen all of the different ways that someone could move. So those were different types of moves that can be done by an animal or a person, most likely an animal, because this text was about animals. And obviously you can see I wrote loads of other stuff. I also did in this text and in the other text, which is on the other side of this page, I went through what first person is, what second person is, and what third person is. So I will do that. I will walk you through that now. Okay. Okay. So first person is when you are talking about yourself. So an example of this is like I. Second person is when you are still talking about yourself, but in another perspective. And perspective means like another point of view. So this, for example, this could be me or my. And then third person is talking when you are talking about a character, so maybe a character in a story or someone who's playing a role in the text that you have in front of you. Yeah, so it's the character or a side person. So just a person that's being described in the text. So that's what third person is. Okay, so there are also, I have done some structural features. So repeating is when you repeat like something in the text that is important, that is vital information. So it's the whole repetition thing, which obviously draws you in, and in your head goes, oh, this is important information, this is what I need to focus on. And then opening is like looking at what the opening line is telling you, and then after you've read the rest of the text, looking back at the opening line and figuring out what from that opening line, how did that opening line of the text help the rest of the text that was written, if that makes any sense. So the ending of the text is obviously the last line of the text. So how does the writer that has written the text end the text? How have they finished it? In what way have they finished it? Have they finished it on a good note or a bad note? Have they left it on a cliffhanger type thing? If they've used a novel or something, that type of thing. Foreshadowing is, you'll probably know this if you've done English anyway, but it's like in a book or a novel. Foreshadowing is basically when the writer hints something that is going to happen later on in the book. So it usually foreshadowing is very subtle, but sometimes it can be slightly emphasized, but not always. So focus is basically what the text is about. So for one of the texts, I wrote, the opening starts with, "This is fantastic." So that was from text 2. If you look at the first line, "This was fantastic news." So this creates suspense by revealing what was fantastic and keeping us in suspense and pulling us in. So by using that as their first line, they were drawing us in to make sure that we would carry on reading the text to find out what happened next. So that's what a focus is. So a sequence is a structural thing where a writer will use a certain type of technique of writing, and they will follow that throughout their writing. So this works for any person who writes anything. So a person who's writing a novel, a person who's writing a text, maybe a newspaper article or anything like that. So what I wrote for that was, at the start, the researchers are bewildered. So that's an expression, so saying how they're feeling. So the researchers may have been feeling anxious, scared, slightly worried maybe. But by the end, they realise that they need to have their own protection barriers in place. So that was from text 1, which was about the animals. So text 1 was about, was based on a novel about Bengal tigers. Yeah. And text 2 was based on an autobiography written by Jane Goodall about her studies on chimpanzees. So I am now going to go through the questions that I have completed for section A. This is a practice paper, so you'll be given a completely different paper on the day of your exam. So for question 1 is, identify one thing about something in the selected text. So you will get 1 mark and you will write 1 line. That is what it says here. Okay, so to answer this question, I used text 2, which is the one about Jane Goodall. So Jane Goodall, the author of the text, talks about her experiences with chimpanzees in the wild and their natural habitat. This text is about her journey and the things that her and her colleagues found out about chimpanzees. So this is all based on her research. Okay, I'm gonna answer question 2 now. So, question 2, in extract text 1, which is the one which was based on the novel about the animals, how does the writer use language to present? So, use examples from the extract and relevant subject terminology. I know these questions are worded very complicated and it doesn't make any sense, but hopefully I'm explaining it alright-ish. So this is a 6 marks question. You have to write 2 different points and each point should contain evidence. So you can take quotes from the texts to support your points. And the examiners that will mark your GCSE exams will look for this. So my first point for question 2 is, in text 1, the writer uses language to describe what the animal is doing in text 1. An example of this is he ambled off. Another example of this is imprinting. Imprinting is something that animals do when they want to mate. Once an animal has imprinted on another animal that is the same species as they will be mates for life. So you can include your own knowledge in this as well as using quotes and information from the text. So don't be afraid to include your own knowledge if you have any. That links to the text, obviously. Okay, so the second point I made was, in text 1, the writer uses language to describe how the main character and the language that they use in the text. This use of language can be shown through the main character saying, "I pounded my chest till it was covered with bruises." Another example is, my tiger language command said to say "do" thousands of times. This means repeating the word "do." This is a form and use of language. It's commonly known as repetition, and repetition is very key. So for question 3, it asked you again to use text 1 and identify one thing. So it's basically the same as question 1. So I went along and did the animal in this text, so text 1, is said to hiss and then rear up on its hind legs. So it only asks you for one line, and that question again is 1 mark. Okay, I haven't completed question 4, but I will explain it to you. So for question 4, you have to use point evidence explained, so PPE, as you may have heard it before. So this question is worth 10 marks, so you have to discuss language, features and structure using the PPE, point evidence explain. So you use those paragraphs, so you make your point, you give evidence for it, and then you explain. So you have to write about language structure and the effect on the reader. So question 4 is, how does the writer try to interest and engage the reader about whatever the text is on? So by using the text that you have and having done your analysis, it will help you to do your point, evidence and explain by using what you've analysed in the text, by using your own knowledge if you want to, but what the examiners will look for is that you've used the information in the texts that you've been given. Yeah, so that's question 4. Question 5, I haven't done either, but I shall explain it to you. So question 5 is, you have to refer to both of the texts, so you have to use them both. So basically question 5 is, write a summary giving 3 separate ways that the writer, that the texts are similar. So to support each text similarity you have to give, obviously you have to give points for both texts to show why are they similar, what things do they have in common. So one of them, for these texts, one of the similarities could be they're both about animals. The first one's about animals, text 1 is about animals, and text 2 is about animals, because text 2 is about chimpanzees, and text 1 is about Bengal tigers. Okay. So you would obviously possibly use your analysis that you've done previously to help you with that as well. So that question is 6 marks, and you have to write 3 separate points for each text to explain why they're similar. Okay, question 6. Question 6 I have just done, so I will go through it with you guys. Okay, so question 6 is referring to both texts. So compare the writer's ideas and perspectives about whatever they've written about in the text. So you must compare the writer's main ideas, points and views, and presentation of ideas and their views in written form. So you got to use both texts, obviously, because that's what the questions asked you to do. This question is 16 marks. You can also use point, evidence, explain and describe, so PPED. So you can use those paragraphs to help you write this out if you want. So yeah, that's up to you. I'm gonna read you what I've got here. So question 6 of section A. So what I wrote for the main idea in text 1 is a detailed text that is based off of a novel about a Bengal tiger, and text 2 is the research of Jane Goodall and her team about chimpanzees in the natural environment. So basically I've just stated what is the different texts about. That's basically what it means by the main idea. Okay, point of view. So in text 2, Jane Goodall stated that chimpanzees are incredibly clever animals, that they can make their own tools with natural materials that they can find around them. This information I've gotten from the text, so obviously that supports the point that I'm making. So in text 1, the point that they are trying to make by using the novel is to tell the audience that animals can be dangerous if precautions are taken to precautions must be taken to protect yourself first. So I've also made that point by reading the article. So it's really important to, if you can't remember what you've read, go back and look at the article and then make your point. Okay. Presentation of ideas and views. In text 1, the presentation and views are very clearly stated throughout the whole of the text. Using the book, it states that you should always protect yourself around wild animals and have precautions in place. So I've basically used what I wrote in the previous point, but I've just reworded it slightly. So text 2, the presentation is given in an essay form instead of a factual form. So she could have written it in a factual form because it was research and it was her own research. And this is fully backed by her research, which was conducted and carried out by the author herself, Jane Goodall, which wrote the article. Okay, so that is the whole of section A. I hope that this video has been useful for you guys. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below. And yeah, I hope that this video helped you. I wish you all the best of luck with your exam, whenever it is. And yeah, good luck. And I hope this helps.